Does she even know how to read? Or is she just pretending? Sophie, a blonde heiress in designer clothes, whispers sharply, her voice cutting through the hushed Haverford University library. Around her, wealthy students smirk, their eyes on Amara Jackson, a striking young black woman in a faded janitor's uniform. Her slender frame moves quietly, hands calloused from years of scrubbing, yet her gaze burns with determination. Self-taught through tattered books, Amara masters English, French, Chinese, and Korean. As she pores over a quantum physics text, their cruel giggles echo. Unnoticed, an old man watches from a corner, his eyes gleaming with intrigue. Where are you listening from? Drop your city in the comments and guess. Will Amara rise above their scorn? Can one moment change her fate? Subscribe and hit the bell for our latest stories. Don't miss how this unfolds. The marble corridors of Haverford University gleamed under the soft glow of crystal chandeliers, each slab polished to a mirror-like sheen that reflected the hurried footsteps of students clad in designer coats. Amid this opulence, Amara Jackson moved like a ghost, her faded janitor's uniform a dull gray against the vibrant chaos of privilege. At 28, her slender frame bore the weight of years spent scrubbing floors and wiping down lecture hall desks. Her hands, calloused and rough as weathered stone, gripped the handle of her cleaning cart, pushing it through the labyrinth of academia, where she was both essential and invisible. Yet her eyes, deep brown and fierce, burned with a quiet, unyielding determination, a spark that no amount of toil could extinguish. Amara had grown up in the shadowed alleys of Detroit's toughest neighborhoods, where hope was a currency few could afford. The eldest of 5, she'd watched her mother's back bend under the strain of endless shifts at a diner, her wages barely enough to keep the lights on. At 16, Amara made a choice that carved her future. She dropped out of high school, trading textbooks for time cards to feed her younger siblings. The sacrifice was a wound that never healed, but it kept her family afloat. Still, the hunger for knowledge gnawed at her. Late at night, while her siblings slept, she pored over tattered library books, their pages yellowed and dog-eared. She taught herself English grammar, French verbs, Chinese characters, and Korean phrases, her mind a sponge soaking up the world's languages. By 28, she spoke 4 languages fluently, her voice carrying the cadence of resilience, though few ever bothered to listen. Haverford was her paradox, a place of dreams she cleaned but could not claim. The university, with its ivy-clad towers and manicured lawns, was a fortress of opportunity for the elite, its tuition a sum Amara couldn't fathom even in her wildest fantasies. Yet every evening, after her shift ended, she slipped into its grand library, a sanctuary open to the public as a gesture of inclusive knowledge. Under the golden glow of antique lamps, she carved out a corner for herself, a makeshift scholar's haven among towering bookshelves. Here, surrounded by the scent of aged paper and leather bindings, Amara was no longer just a janitor. She was a student of the universe, her fingers tracing equations in quantum physics texts, her notebook filled with meticulous annotations in 4 languages. Each page turned was a rebellion against the life that had tried to define her. Tonight, the library was quieter than usual, the air thick with the hum of concentration. Amara sat at her usual table, a heavy tome on quantum mechanics open before her. The equations danced in her mind, elegant and elusive, a puzzle she was determined to solve. Her pencil scratched softly, sketching diagrams of particle waves, her brow furrowed in focus. She was so absorbed that she barely noticed the group of students who sauntered in, their laughter sharp and careless, slicing through the stillness like a blade. Does she even know how to read? Or is she just pretending? The voice was low but venomous, dripping with disdain. Amara's hand froze mid-sentence. She didn't need to look up to know who spoke. Sophie, a blonde heiress whose cashmere sweaters cost more than Amara's monthly rent, lounged at a table, a few rows away, her manicured nails tapping against a sleek laptop. Her friends, a clique of Haverford's gilded youth, snickered, their designer bags strewn across the floor like trophies of their status. "Look at her, flipping through that book like she understands it," a boy in a tailored blazer added, his voice loud enough to ensure Amara heard. "What's next? She's gonna teach us physics?" His friends erupted in stifled laughter, their eyes glinting with the cruelty of those who'd never known want. Amara's jaw tightened, her heart a drumbeat of restrained anger. She was used to this, the whispers, the sneers, the way her uniform rendered her less than human in their eyes. For 3 years at Haverford, she'd endured their casual disdain, their coffee cups left on tables for her to clean, their wrappers tossed inches from trash cans. But tonight, the words cut deeper, piercing the fragile armor she'd built. She forced her eyes back to the page, willing herself to focus, to not give them the satisfaction of a reaction. The equations blurred slightly, not from confusion, but from the sting of unshed tears. "She's probably just here for the free Wi-Fi," Sophie continued, her voice a theatrical whisper. "I mean, the library lets anyone in. It's practically a homeless shelter." Another round of giggles followed, each one a needle in Amara's chest. She gripped her pencil tightly, the wood creaking under her fingers. She wanted to stand, to tell them she could recite Schrödinger's equation in her sleep, that she could debate Sartre in French or Li Bai in Chinese. But she stayed silent, her silence a shield forged from years of survival. Speaking would only fuel their mockery, and she had too much to lose. Unseen in a shadowed corner, an old man sat, his presence as unobtrusive as Amara's. His silver, glasses glinted faintly under the lamplight, his hands folded over a worn notebook. He watched her with an intensity that contrasted with his unassuming appearance, his eyes tracing the curve of her hunched shoulders, the defiance in her posture. He jotted something down, the scratch of his pen lost in the library's quiet. To the students, he was just another professor, perhaps a retiree lingering over research. To Amara, he was invisible, just as she was to them. But his gaze held a spark, curiosity, recognition, something profound stirring in the silence. Amara exhaled slowly, forcing her mind back to the book. The equations steadied her, their logic a lifeline. She would not let Sophie and her friends steal this moment, this sanctuary. She traced another line, her handwriting precise despite the tremor in her chest. The library clock ticked on, its hands creeping toward closing time. Soon she'd return to her cramped apartment, to the siblings who depended on her, to the life that demanded she remain unseen. But here, in this fleeting hour, she was more than a janitor. She was Amara, the girl who dared to dream in the shadow of impossibility. What did that old man see in her? What lay beneath his watchful stare? For now, Amara didn't know, couldn't know. The weight of her invisibility pressed down, but within her burned a light no one could extinguish. Not Sophie, not Haverford, not the world that had tried to break her. She turned the page, and the story of her defiance continued, unwritten, but unstoppable. The Haverford University Library stood as a cathedral of knowledge, its arched ceilings soaring above rows of mahogany shelves heavy with books. The air was thick with the scent of old paper and wax polish, punctuated by the soft hum of fluorescent lights. Amara Jackson sat at her corner table, a fortress of solitude amidst the vast expanse of learning. Her faded janitor's uniform clung to her slender frame, the gray fabric a stark contrast to the vibrant energy of the students around her. Before her lay a quantum physics textbook, its pages dense with equations that danced like riddles in her mind. Her calloused fingers traced a line of text, her brow furrowed in concentration, as if the secrets of the universe might yield to her quiet determination. The library was a haven, a rare space where Amara could shed the weight of her invisibility. But tonight that sanctuary was breached. A burst of laughter, sharp and careless, shattered the stillness, slicing through her focus like a shard of glass. She didn't need to look up to know the source. Sophie, the blonde heiress whose voice carried the weight of privilege, lounged at a table a few rows away, her designer scarf draped carelessly over a chair. Her clique of wealthy students, their faces illuminated by the glow of laptops and entitlement, sprawled around her, their voices a chorus of mockery. Does she even know how to read? Or is she just pretending? Sophie's whisper was deliberate, loud enough to pierce the quiet and find its mark. Amara's hand paused, her pencil hovering above a half-finished diagram of a wave function. The words stung, not because they were new, she'd heard variations of them for years, but because they were so brazen, so unapologetic. Sophie's friends snickered, their eyes darting toward Amara, assessing her like a curiosity in a museum. Look at her, clutching that book like it's a lifeline, a boy named Ethan added. His tailored blazer creased from leaning back in his chair. His glasses, rimmed in gold, glinted as he smirked. What's she gonna do, solve quantum mechanics? She's here to clean, not study. The group erupted in stifled giggles, their amusement a weapon wielded with precision. Amara's jaw clenched, her heart pounding a rhythm of restrained fury. She was no stranger to their cruelty. The way they left coffee cups on tables for her to clear. The way their eyes slid past her, as if she were part of the furniture. But tonight, the library was her refuge, and their words were an invasion. She forced her gaze back to the page, willing the equations to anchor her. Schrödinger's equation stared back, its symbols a language she understood better than the venom of privilege. She would not give them the satisfaction of a reaction, would not let them steal this moment. Sophie leaned closer to her friends, her voice a theatrical hiss. This place is turning into a free-for-all. They let anyone.
Janitors, randos off the street. It's embarrassing for Haverford.
Another round of laughter followed, each chuckle a dagger twisting in Amara's chest. Her fingers tightened around her pencil, the wood groaning under the pressure. She wanted to stand, to tell them she could recite Heisenberg's uncertainty, principle in 4 languages, that her mind held worlds they couldn't imagine. But silence was her shield, forged in years of enduring the world's dismissal. She swallowed the fire in her throat and turned the page, her movements deliberate, defiant. The library's quiet was disrupted again, this time by the soft click of heels on the hardwood floor. A young woman, her dark hair tied in a neat bun, approached the circulation desk, her expression one of hesitant confusion. She was Korean, her posture suggesting she was a visitor, perhaps a researcher from abroad. "Excuse me," she said in halting English, her accent thick. "I need books on science, physics." The student worker at the desk, a bored sophomore, scrolling on his phone, shrugged. "Science, like what kind? I don't know, check over there?" He waved vaguely toward the stacks, his indifference palpable. Amara's head lifted, her instincts sharper than her hesitation. She saw the woman's shoulders slump, the flicker of frustration in her eyes. Without thinking, Amara rose, her chair scraping softly against the floor. She crossed the room, her steps steady despite the weight of Sophie's gaze boring into her back. "Chao chi," she said in fluent Korean, her voice warm and clear. "Chi jang tim sash vevatli jung kong. Chi mon chujikuthe now nuvatli luang tuhai kohok kojien." The woman's face lit up, relief washing over her features. "Oh, thank you," she replied in Korean, her words tumbling out. "I need books on quantum physics, but I don't know where to start." Amara smiled, leading her to a nearby aisle. "Follow me. There are some great texts here. Feynman's lectures are a good start, and there's a new book on entanglement theory." She pointed out specific volumes, her explanations concise yet insightful, her passion for the subject evident. The woman clutched a book, her gratitude spilling over. "You're amazing. I'll come back if I need more help." As Amara returned to her table, the library seemed to hold its breath. Sophie and her friends sat frozen, their mouths slightly agape. Ethan adjusted his glasses, his smirk replaced by a flicker of disbelief. Did she just speak Korean? Sophie muttered, her voice barely audible. The air crackled with their stunned silence, their assumptions unraveling in the face of Amara's quiet brilliance. Unseen in a shadowed corner, an old man watched, his silver glasses catching the lamplight. His hands rested on a worn notebook, a pen poised above a page filled with neat script. He had been there all along, a silent observer blending into the library's backdrop. His eyes, sharp and discerning, followed Amara's every move, the way she carried herself under the weight of scorn, the grace with which she helped a stranger. He wrote something down, the scratch of his pen a whisper in the stillness. To the students he was nobody, a figure as unremarkable as the bookshelves. But his gaze held a weight, a promise of something unspoken. Amara settled back at her table, her heart still racing from the encounter. She picked up her pencil, her hand steadier now. The equations welcomed her back, their logic a balm for the wounds of the night. Sophie and her friends resumed their chatter, but their voices were quieter, less certain. Amara didn't care. She had proven something, not to them, but to herself. The library clock ticked on, its hands a reminder that her time here was fleeting. But in this moment, under the golden glow of the lamps, she was more than a janitor. She was Amara, a flame burning bright in the shadow of their whispers. The morning sun filtered through the stained glass windows of Haverford University's administrative building, casting kaleidoscope patterns across the polished oak floors. Amara Jackson maneuvered her cleaning cart through the quiet halls, the wheels creaking softly in rhythm with her steps. Her faded janitor's uniform hung loosely on her slender frame, the gray fabric a silent testament to her unseen labor. Her calloused hands gripped a rag, wiping down a glass display case with methodical precision. But her mind was elsewhere, replaying the previous night's triumph in the library. The memory of the Korean student's gratitude, the stunned silence of Sophie's clique, lingered like a spark in her chest, a fleeting victory in a world that rarely saw her. The administrative wing was a world apart from the bustling lecture halls, its air heavy with the scent of leather-bound ledgers and authority. Amara's presence here was routine, yet today felt different, charged with an unspoken tension. As she polished a brass plaque, the door to the staff office swung open, and her supervisor, Mr. Callahan, a gruff man with a perpetual frown, beckoned. "Amara, you're needed in the conference room, now." His tone was clipped, his eyes avoiding hers as if he knew something she didn't. Amara's heart quickened, a knot of unease tightening in her stomach. Had she done something wrong? Was it about the library incident? She smoothed her uniform, tucked a stray braid behind her ear, and followed him down the corridor. The conference room was an intimidating space, its long mahogany table flanked by high-backed chairs, portraits of past deans glaring from the walls. At the far end sat an old man, his silver glasses glinting under the chandelier's light. His face was lined but kind, his vest and tie understated yet commanding. Amara recognized him instantly, the silent observer from the library, the one whose gaze had felt like a weight she couldn't name. Amara Jackson. His voice was warm, steady, cutting through the room's formality. "I'm Harold Bennett, president of Haverford University. Please sit." Amara's breath caught, her legs moving mechanically as she sank into a chair. The president? Her mind raced, conjuring worst-case scenarios, reprimands, dismissal, accusations. But Bennett's eyes held no judgment, only a quiet intensity that pinned her in place. "I was in the library last night," he began, folding his hands on the table. "I saw what happened, how you helped that young woman, how you carried yourself under scrutiny. Your fluency in Korean, your knowledge of physics, it was remarkable." Amara's cheeks warmed, her hands clenching in her lap. She wasn't used to praise, especially not from someone whose name adorned university halls. "I asked around," Bennett continued, "and learned you've been teaching yourself for years despite working long hours here. That kind of dedication is rare." Amara swallowed, her voice barely above a whisper. I love learning, sir. It's all I have." The admission felt raw, exposing a truth she rarely voiced. Bennett nodded, as if he understood more than she'd said. He reached into his briefcase, producing a crisp envelope sealed with the university's crest. "Haverford exists to nurture minds like yours," he said, sliding the envelope toward her. "This is a full scholarship, tuition, books, everything. We want you as a student, Amara, starting next semester." The world seemed to tilt, the room's edges blurring. Amara stared at the envelope, her pulse a deafening roar. A scholarship? To Haverford? The dream she'd buried under years of toil. The one she'd dared only in the quiet of her apartment now lay within reach. Her fingers trembled as she touched the envelope, its weight both a promise and a challenge. I don't know what to say," she stammered, her voice cracking. "I'm just a janitor. I can't afford to stop working." Bennett leaned forward, his gaze unwavering. "You won't have to. The scholarship includes a stipend for living expenses, and will adjust your work schedule to fit your classes. You've earned this, Amara, not because of where you come from, but because of who you are." His words landed like a lifeline, pulling her from the depths of doubt. Yet fear coiled in her chest, fear of failure, of stepping into a world that had always excluded her. "Why me?" she asked, her voice steadier now, searching his face for answers. Bennett smiled, a flicker of something personal in his expression. "Because I see potential that others overlook. Because I believe you'll prove them wrong. Every single one." His certainty was a spark, igniting a courage Amara hadn't known she possessed. She thought of her siblings, of the sacrifices that had brought her here, of the library where she'd dared to dream. This was her chance, her one shot to rewrite her story. "I won't let you down," she said, her voice firm, a vow to him and herself. She clutched the envelope, its edges sharp against her palms, a tangible symbol of a future she could scarcely imagine. Bennett rose, extending his hand. "I know you won't. Welcome to Haverford, Amara." His handshake was warm, grounding, a bridge between her past and the unknown ahead. As she left the room, the envelope tucked safely in her pocket, Amara felt the weight of invisibility lift, if only slightly. The halls seemed brighter, the air lighter, as if the university itself had shifted to make room for her. She didn't know what challenges awaited, didn't know if she could meet the demands of this new path. But for the first time she felt seen, her spark acknowledged by someone who believed it could become a flame. The old man's words echoed in her mind, a beacon in the shadows. You'll prove them wrong. And she would. The lecture halls of Haverford University buzzed with the restless energy of ambition, their vaulted ceilings echoing with the scribble of pens and the hum of intellectual debate. Amara Jackson, no longer just a janitor but a student in her own right, navigated this new world with a heart full of fire and a mind sharpened by years of self-discipline. Her faded uniform had been traded for a simple backpack and jeans, but the calluses on her hands remained, a reminder of the labor that still anchored her life. By day, she attended classes in quantum mechanics and differential equations. By night, she pushed her cleaning cart through empty corridors, the dual rhythm of scholar and worker a grueling dance that left her breathless but unbroken. The transition was a tempest. Haverford's academic rigor was unrelenting, its problem, sets and research papers demanding a precision that tested even the most privileged students. For Amara, every assignment was a battle fought on two fronts, mastering the material and silencing the doubts that whispered she didn't belong. Her peers, clad in designer coats and armed with private tutors, moved through the university with an ease she envied. In lecture halls, their hands shot up with confident answers, while Amara's contributions, though insightful, were often met with raised eyebrows, as if her presence at the podium was an anomaly. "How does a janitor keep up with this?" a classmate muttered once, loud enough for her to hear. The words stung, but Amara channeled the pain into her work, her grades climbing steadily, her essays earning praise from professors who began to notice her quiet brilliance. The library, once her sanctuary, became both a battlefield and a refuge. She spent hours there, her table piled with textbooks and notes scribbled in English, French, and Korean, a testament to her polyglot mind. but the whispers followed her. Sophie and her clique, though less brazen since the library incident, still cast sidelong glances, their murmurs a constant undercurrent of skepticism. "She's only here because of some diversity quota," Sophie said one afternoon, her voice carrying across the reading room. Amara's pen froze, her heart a drumbeat of frustration. She wanted to confront them, to flaunt her perfect scores, but she knew the truth would mean more in action than words, so she buried herself in her studies, her resolve a steel thread, weaving through every late-night session. President Harold Bennett became her anchor in the storm. He met with her weekly in his office, a cozy space lined with books and warmed by his encouragement. "You're not just a student, Amara," he told her one rainy afternoon, his silver glasses fogging slightly from his tea. "You're a testament to what's possible when talent meets tenacity." He shared stories of his past, of working as a factory hand to afford college, his words a balm for her insecurities. His belief in her was a lifeline, steadying her when the weight of prejudice threatened to pull her under. The turning point came in her second year, during a group project in advanced physics. Paired with Sophie and two others, Amara braced for tension. The group meetings were strained, Sophie's contributions minimal, her attitude icy. But when a complex problem on quantum entanglement stumped the team, Amara stepped forward, her solution elegant and precise, drawn from hours of solitary study. The professor lauded her work in class, projecting her calculations as an example of excellence. Sophie's face flushed, her usual confidence faltering. Later, as they packed up, she lingered, her voice low. "Amara, I was wrong about you, what I said in the library, all of it. It was awful. I'm sorry." Her eyes, usually sharp, were soft with regret. Amara paused, the apology catching her off guard. She saw sincerity in Sophie's expression, a crack in the armor of privilege. "Thank you," she said simply, her voice steady but not cold. Forgiveness didn't erase the hurt, but it freed her to move forward. The moment marked a shift. Classmates began seeking her out for study groups, her name whispered now with respect rather than scorn. She wasn't one of them, but she was no longer an outsider. By her third year, Amara's name topped the department's honor roll, her research on particle interactions earning a coveted award. Professors cited her work in seminars, and students, who once ignored her, now nodded in acknowledgement. Yet she never forgot her roots. After classes, she donned her janitor's uniform, cleaning the same halls where she studied, the irony a quiet source of pride. Each swipe of her mop was a defiance of the world that had tried to limit her. Each equation solved a step toward a future she was building with her own hands. As the semester drew to a close, Amara stood in the library, gazing at the shelves that had been her companions through countless nights. The storm hadn't passed, doubts and challenges still loomed, but she was stronger now, her light brighter. She didn't know what lay ahead, but she knew she'd face it with the same fire that had carried her this far. The girl who'd once been invisible was carving her place in a world that could no longer look away. The sun hung high over Haverford University's grand lawn, its golden rays bathing the rows of white chairs in a warm, celebratory glow. The air buzzed with anticipation, the scent of fresh-cut grass mingling with the rustle of graduation gowns. Amara Jackson stood among her fellow graduates, her black cap and gown shimmering against her dark skin, the weight of her bachelor's degree in physics a tangible triumph. At 31, she was no longer the invisible janitor who scrubbed these halls. She was the valedictorian, chosen to deliver the commencement address. Her calloused hands, now clutching a carefully written speech, trembled slightly, not from fear but from the magnitude of the moment. Today, the world would see her, and she would speak for those who, like her, had been overlooked. The stage loomed ahead, adorned with the university's crest and flanked by faculty in regal robes. Amara's heart pounded as she scanned the crowd. Her younger siblings, 4 bright faces who owed their futures to her sacrifices, sat in the front row, their eyes shining with pride. Beside them was President Harold Bennett, his silver glasses, catching the sunlight, his expression one of quiet fulfillment. The man who had seen her potential when she was just a shadow in the library now watched her rise, his presence a steady anchor in this sea of emotion. As the ceremony unfolded, the dean's voice boomed through the speakers. "It is our honor to introduce Amara Jackson, valedictorian of the class of 2025, whose extraordinary journey and academic excellence have inspired us all." A wave of applause erupted, thunderous and unbroken, carrying Amara to the podium. She adjusted the microphone, her breath steadying as she met the eyes of her classmates, some familiar, others strangers. Among them, she spotted Sophie, her former critic, now clapping with a sincerity that spoke of lessons learned. "Ladies and gentlemen," Amara began, her voice clear and resonant, cutting through the warm May air. 3 years ago, I stood in these halls not as a student but as a janitor, cleaning the spaces where dreams were built. I was invisible, my worth measured by the mop in my hand, my dreams dismissed by those who couldn't see beyond my uniform. The crowd leaned in, her words weaving a spell of raw honesty. She spoke of her childhood in Detroit, of sacrificing school to feed her siblings, of teaching herself languages and physics under the dim light of a borrowed lamp. "I thought the world had no place for me," she continued, "until one man saw what others ignored. President Bennett gave me a chance, not out of pity, but because he believed in the power of a determined mind." Her gaze swept the audience, finding Bennett, whose eyes glistened with unshed tears. "This degree is not just mine," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "It belongs to every worker who toils unseen, every dreamer who believes their place is at the bottom. To the janitors, the servers, the gardeners, your hands build the world and your minds hold universes." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, students and families alike moved by her call to see the unseen. Amara's speech turned to the future, her words a challenge to her peers. "As you leave Haverford, you'll meet people you're tempted to overlook. The barista pouring your coffee, the cleaner sweeping your office. They have stories, dreams, brilliance you cannot imagine. See them. Honor their humanity. That is the true measure of your education." She paused, her eyes locking with Sophie's, who nodded, a silent acknowledgement of their shared growth. "I stand here because someone saw me," Amara concluded. "Be that someone for another. Let your light lift others." The applause was deafening, a standing ovation that shook the lawn. Amara's siblings leapt to their feet, cheering wildly, their voices a chorus of love. Bennett rose slowly, wiping his eyes, his pride a beacon in the sea of faces. As Amara stepped down, she felt weightless, as if the years of struggle had dissolved in the warmth of this moment. She cross-embraced her siblings, their arms a tangle of joy, then turned to Bennett, who approached with a rare, unguarded smile. "You were magnificent," he said, his voice thick with emotion. Amara hugged him, her whisper barely audible. "Thank you for seeing me." His embrace was a father's, steady and sure, a silent vow that her journey mattered. As the ceremony gave way to celebration, classmates swarmed Amara, some seeking photos, others offering congratulations. Sophie approached, hesitant but earnest. "Your speech, it changed how I see things," she said. "I'm proud to graduate with you." Amara smiled, the past forgiven, not forgotten. The lawn hummed with laughter and music, but Amara's heart was with the future, a PhD at MIT, a path fraught with challenges but lit by her unyielding resolve. Standing alone for a moment, she gazed at Haverford's towers, their ivy gleaming. In the sunlight, she was no longer a shadow but a radiant light, her story a testament to what courage and belief could achieve. The world had tried to dim her, but she had burned brighter, and now she would shine on. Amara's journey reminds us that brilliance can shine from the most unexpected places. Have you ever felt unseen or witnessed someone rise above prejudice to inspire others? Share your thoughts and stories in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you for joining us in this tale of resilience and hope. Your support lights up our storytelling journey, So don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more stories that uplift and inspire. Until next time, keep seeing the light in others, and we'll see you soon.